In villages, murder was shocking enough, but the thought of execution belonged to darker worlds altogether, newspaper worlds, London worlds, places far removed from tea-tables and parish fetes. Sylvia sank slowly into a chair. "You think Arthur Tate is innocent?" "I think Arthur Tate is terrified," Clara replied. A long silence followed. Then Sylvia spoke very softly. "Did you ever love Edwin?" Clara did not answer immediately. "Yes," she said at last. The honesty of it seemed to alter the atmosphere entirely. Not scandal, not melodrama, only tired truth. "He was charming once," Clara continued quietly. "Men like Edwin usually are. They know precisely what people wish to hear." Sylvia stared into the fire. "Yes," she murmured. Clara stepped closer. "What was Arthur doing backstage?" "I don't know." "You met him earlier?" "No." "You're lying." Sylvia rose abruptly. "Please leave." Clara regarded her for several seconds. Then she said something very curious. "If you're protecting someone, be careful." Sylvia's breath caught. "Protecting?" "Because," said Clara evenly, "I don't think Edwin intended to die today. I think someone became frightened." For the first time that evening, Sylvia Palfrey looked genuinely shaken. Clara collected her gloves. "I shall say nothing to the police for now." She moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. Miss Marple was watching you." Sylvia looked up quickly. "That old woman?" "Yes." Clara's voice became thoughtful. "And if I were you, Mrs. Palfrey, I should be far more afraid of Miss Marple than of Inspector Graves." The following morning arrived warm and brilliantly clear, as though nature herself objected to unpleasantness. Willowbrook, however, remained in a state of excited unrest. Groups formed outside shops. Curtains twitched industriously. Bicycles stopped in lanes for prolonged conversation. Even the churchyard seemed unusually animated. Miss Marple, walking slowly toward the baker's shop with a basket upon her arm, encountered no fewer than 4 attempts to discuss the murder before reaching the corner. Miss Pike caught her first. "They say the police found the murder weapon in the woods." "Indeed?" "And young Arthur Tate's fingerprints all over it." "How very careless of him," said Miss Marple. Mrs. Pike blinked uncertainly, unable to determine whether agreement had been expressed. At the baker's, Miss Hartnell leaned across the counter confidentially. "Between ourselves, Miss Marple, I never trusted that Palfrey man." "Didn't you?" "Too smooth." "Yes," said Miss Marple thoughtfully. "Smooth people are sometimes dangerous." Carrying her rolls homeward, Miss Marple reflected that village instinct was frequently more accurate than village reasoning. People had disliked Edwin Palfrey, but dislike alone did not produce murder. As she turned into Church Lane, she observed Dr. Leonard Bryce approaching from the opposite direction. The doctor looked exhausted. Dark shadows marked the skin beneath his eyes, and his collar sat crookedly as though he had dressed in haste. He raised a hand. "Good morning, Miss Marple." "Good morning, Doctor." He hesitated. "You heard they've arrested Arthur Tate?" Miss Marple stopped walking. "So soon?" "Early this morning. They found him near Miller's Wood." "And?" "He claims he's innocent." Miss Marple regarded him quietly. "What do you think?" Dr. Bryce gave a short laugh lacking amusement. "Innocent men usually do claim innocence." But he paused. "Men usually do claim innocence." But he paused. "Something troubles me." Miss Marple waited patiently. "The wound," said the doctor slowly. "It was oddly placed." "In what way?" "Not a straightforward attack. More," he frowned slightly, "almost clumsy." Miss Marple's eyes sharpened. "A struggle?" "Possibly." "Was Edwin Palfrey physically strong?" "Oh, yes." "Then perhaps," said Miss Marple gently, "the killer was not." Dr. Bryce stared at her. After a moment he said quietly, "You notice extraordinary things." "My dear doctor, one notices what one has seen before." He looked puzzled. But Miss Marple was remembering another case many years earlier, involving a churchwarden, a coal scuttle, and a timid woman finally driven beyond endurance. Violence committed in panic had a very particular character. Dr. Bryce lowered his voice. "There's another matter." "Yes?" "The voice." Miss Marple's knitting instincts, as she privately called them, stirred immediately. "What about it?" "I think I recognized it." Miss Marple became very still. "Indeed?" The doctor glanced around before speaking. "I believe the voice behind the curtain belonged to Edwin's secretary." "Mr. Ellis?" "How curious. He disappeared yesterday afternoon." Miss Marple considered this carefully. Rupert Ellis. Thin, nervous, efficient Rupert Ellis, who managed Edwin Palfrey's correspondence and finances with quiet invisibility. a man most people scarcely noticed, but Miss Marple remembered him well enough, especially his hands. Beautiful hands, delicate and precise, stained yesterday with green paint near the cuffs of his shirt. Green paint, exactly like Sylvia's gloves. The old lady smiled faintly to herself. Little things, always little things. Dr. Bryce looked troubled. If Ellis was there, why vanish? A very sensible question, said Miss Marple. And if Arthur Tate didn't kill Palfrey? Yes, then someone else in Willowbrook did. Miss Marple gave a tiny sigh. My dear doctor, she said softly, someone else in Willowbrook almost certainly did long before yesterday. Human beings are very repetitive creatures. The doctor departed looking more bewildered than before. Miss Marple resumed her walk home, but her thoughts moved steadily now. Arthur Tate frightened, Rupert Ellis vanished, Sylvia Palfrey lying, and green paint appearing where it should not. The pattern was beginning to emerge, though still faintly, like pencil lines beneath finished embroidery. As she reached her gate, Florence hurried out to meet her. There's a gentleman waiting in the drawing-room, miss. A policeman? No, miss. Who then? Florence lowered her voice. He says his name is Rupert Ellis. Miss Marple stopped very still indeed. Rupert Ellis was standing by the window when Miss Marple entered the drawing-room. He turned quickly at the sound of the door, and she saw at once how near the edge of collapse he was. He was a slight man in his middle 30s, carefully dressed though his clothes were crumpled from wear. His fair hair needed cutting, and there was a strained brightness in his eyes which suggested sleeplessness and fear held rigidly in check. One hand gripped his hat so tightly that the brim had bent inward. Miss Marple noticed all this in a single glance. "Good morning, Mr. Ellis." Miss Marple. His voice sounded hoarse. "Forgive this intrusion." "Not at all. Won't you sit down?" He obeyed mechanically. Florence entered with tea, regarding the visitor with severe suspicion before withdrawing again. Rupert Ellis waited until the door shut completely.